What's up guys, Rogue9 here, and as you probably know, I was in Paris recently attending the 6 majors, and as part of that trip I got to talk to Alex Remy, the brand director for Rainbow Six Siege, who gave me some of his insights into the new season as well as some issues that Rainbow Six Siege is facing right now. As always, recording sound at a busy esports event is quite challenging, so please do excuse the fact that the quality might be somewhat lacking. Now, the first thing I wanted to talk to Alex about was that there seems to have been quite a drastic shift in the sort of design philosophy behind the new operators. If we think back to someone like Finca, where there was like this almost unlimited number of weird overlaps and counters and synergies, then it's actually quite refreshing to see the new operators being so simple. One has a shield, one has a blowtorch that can open up holes in reinforced walls or soft walls. So I guess what I was trying to figure out is this just something for Operation Grim Sky, or is this a general shift in design philosophy that will also inform how the future operators are designed? So let's see what Alex had to say about this.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's an intention here with Clash and Maverick, the two new operators, to somehow go back to certain roots of the game and some certain core systems. In the case of Maverick, we are revisiting Destruction, right? He's an operator that comes equipped with a flame thrower, or not flame thrower, a blowtorch, sorry, yeah. Excuse my English, that actually allows him to create murder holes, or even, in certain cases, some access points. So he's a hybrid between a breacher and a flanker. But we are revisiting Destruction, that, as you know, is an absolute core system of the game. In the case of Clash, the Defender, it's about looking at the gameplay, the shield gameplay that we know all the attackers have, or some of the attackers have, and for the first time bringing a shield in defense. So it's also a mechanic that is very core and true to Rainbow that we are visiting. So I think you're right in the sense that our design intentions are going back to those classic and roots of some of the gameplay elements are different from what we've seen in previous season. For instance, with the Lion Finca, when we introduced the globals, was a new thing, and now we are back to the roots with this season. I think it's always, you'll find that it's always a balance when designing a game, that in addition you aim to have a lot of operators in the long term, so you will find different skill level of operators that you do require for your population overall to thrive and develop and educate itself about the game. So having operators that are built on core system that may be also more, I wouldn't say simpler, but purely in the way you handle them and discover them are maybe a bit more easy or more intuitive. Like Maverick, let's be honest, Maverick couldn't be simpler. You handle it, you have that blowtorch, there's a wall, you action it, and hey, you know what, it does a hole, wow. But the character has a lot of depth, because he does interact with bandits, he does interact with some of the defense operators in a very particular way that you'll discover afterwards is as you train and practice with him, is super interesting in the flanking and in the hop bridging.
So I think it's maybe fair to say that there has been a realization amongst the developers that things were getting a little bit too complex. I mean, I brought up the Finca example, and I challenge you right now to come up with all of the different synergies and overlaps she has. This wasn't just something that was confusing for casual players who maybe play after work once or twice a week. This was something that, even as someone who is playing very regularly, even at the highest level, it was very challenging to remember all of the different things she was able to do. Coming away from that and having more intuitive and yet very useful operators that can still have counters and overlaps with other operators, that I think is a positive direction for the future. The next thing I asked Alex about was sort of the unofficial theme of cooperation that I personally see in Operation Grim Sky. I mean, Maverick is kind of best used when working closely together with other operators. I mean, when you're creating murder holes, someone like Glaz or Blackbeard or maybe a shield operator can take advantage of those, maybe with a bit more safety. And when you use Maverick sort of as a bandit counter, then he's a great asset to have alongside the existing hard breachers. Clash, I think, is even more extreme because when you have someone playing in behind you, she can be extremely powerful, but when she's playing alone and you're kind of isolated, she can be pretty weak, especially when it comes to actually getting kills. So here's what Alex had to say on this topic.
It is absolutely right that both of these operators, while they do function well if played solo, Clash is actually super good at intel gathering because she can actually extend the usual defensive position since she's extremely well protected. Or in the case of Maverick, he is a good breacher, but they do work much better when synergizing with another teammate. In the case of Clash, she is non-lethal when solo, but when in cooperation with another operator, then she becomes absolutely deadly because the combination of protection, taking the aggro of the firefight and having a teammate flank is absolutely deadly. So you're right, but Rainbow Six, and I think that's what we all love about it, it's a game about teamwork and it's a game about communication. So what we can't wait to see is how much that operator is also bringing an additional level of cooperation and communication in game. On pro player, obviously they do communicate, they have headset, they are even friends all playing all the time at the highest level, but I'm very interested in the even public matchmaking, how much we are reinforcing aspects of communicating that we feel is absolutely key for the game.
Next, of course, we're not only just getting 2 new operators with Operation Grim Sky, but also what is essentially a brand new map. So I asked Alex, in his opinion, what exactly is it that makes the new Hereford better than the existing version?
So better depends on what sense you're talking. In my heart, the original Hereford base will always be better because that was the first map that was developed in Rainbow Six and the first map that we had as a prototype map when we developed the game. So all of the core systems, the destruction, the reinforcement, all of those aspects were developed in a grey box Hereford base that was even different from the previous version that you guys played. And to me, Hereford is always going to be somehow have that special place in my heart. That being said, for most of the people, yes, the new Hereford is bringing and changing a lot of the flaws, a lot of the weaknesses that we had previously. She comes now with 4 viable objectives. If we worked a lot of the flow, a lot of the 2 stairs now instead of 1, that was a huge choke point, making the map usually particularly unbalanced at that to that element. So reworking Hereford for us, it's a testament of how much let's take one of the classic, one of the favorite, one of the map that we all love, and let's do justice to that map and make it put it back to where it belongs as a balanced, cool map with 4 objectives that ideally and as much as possible are as viable as possible. So fingers crossed, but the new map should really deliver on those objectives.
Is it going into Pro League straight away?
Not for the moment, but the Pro League is now 6 months, so we have an extra 3 months going on. So what's super cool is we'll have the opportunity actually to have the new Hereford being tested, played in the different playlists and by the pros. So what we usually do is a month before the new Pro League started, the Pro League season, so the new one will be in November after the Rio finals. We'll run a survey and have conversation with the pro to change the map pool that is being played by the pros, and maybe if deemed competitive enough, we'll see Hereford base actually being part of the Pro League.
Okay, so we're getting 4 viable bomb sites, and the bottleneck of the original stairs has been removed by adding a separate staircase. I think in addition to this, it's also worth mentioning that from the new Hereford base, spawn peeking is much more difficult, and sort of the long corridors that we used to have going from right the front of the building all the way to the back where the stairs are, those have been broken up essentially with right angle curves. So this stops the attackers from being able to simply open up the front door and then control the entire ground floor by simply peeking down that hallway. The next thing I asked Alex about was the toxicity measures or anti-toxicity measures that we saw in Operation Parabellum, and if he thinks those have been successful at this stage.
First, I think the biggest success that we've had with the banning of people using homophobic and racial slurs in the game that are automatically detected and automatically banned is the signal that we're sending. Rainbow Six will not tolerate that level of toxicity, and we believe respect among players on an online, particularly on an online competitive community, is an absolute necessity. So our signal is super strong, and we'll keep on shouting it if some people think it's unclear. So we are delivering, I believe, this. But this is quality of life and quality improvements, like the mute chat, like the two-factor authentication, like reinforcing our cheating system, like all the efforts that are going to be a constant race. Let's be honest, we'll never win that war, we'll constantly be battling it, that are going to be the measure of our success. With the ban, I think we send a strong signal. With the mute chat, we are giving a quality, extra quality of life for everyone to choose whether they want to see or not the text chat of other players. With the two-factor authentication, we'll be nerfing the account boosting and some of the cheating that we have been seeing resurging lately. And there will be more and more and constant feature toward this to fight against cheating and to fight against toxicity. Yes.
Purposeful team killing is still a problem we see in Rainbow Six, and it's just part of the game, especially maybe on consoles. So what is Ubisoft's position on that?
Team kill, that is the output and side effect of friendly fire that is in the game, is clearly a potential gameplay that is being taken and exploited to become a toxic behavior in the game. So as developers, the question that is being asked to us is how much do we want to tweak a gameplay that is intended to bring tension, that is intended to bring, hey, watch and shoot carefully in Rainbow Six, every bullet counts and aiming counts like all the time, because yes, you could shoot at your friend and potentially kill him, which usually results in a loss or not far from it. So do we want to move away and remove that element of tension and skill to remove toxicity, or how much can we address toxicity? And that's the question we're asking. We have several ideas that we feel could keep the tension and avoid the exploits leading to a team kill that we feel are interesting, that you should see in the coming months. No engagement or commitment on that side.
Okay, so the bottom line is it is on your radar, it is something you're looking at, but you're not going to tell me.
Team kill for me, it's even one of the most iconic, because it comes, as I mentioned, from an element of gameplay. And I think for us developers and for even the players and the community, seeing a cool feature that's somehow being distorted from its intention to create a toxic behavior is obviously something that pains deep down. So by fixing it, I think it's going to be very symbolic as well on how the game solves its toxic behaviors.
So this to me is a very strong and very clear signal. The team damage aspect or the friendly fire aspect of Rainbow Six Siege is an intrinsic part of the gameplay, both at the competitive and the casual level. So what I take from Alex's answer here is that that's not going away, not now and not ever, but they are exploring more options to tackle team killing, which is purposeful rather than accidental. And of course, I mean, these sort of anti-toxicity measures, they're nothing new. We've been hearing about them, we've already seen some enacted, and of course we know the plans for some in future. But one thing I really did want to ask Alex about was sort of the legal possibilities of cheating that are in the game right now. There are forms of cheating which are just simply not tackled at the moment, and the first thing I asked him about was stream sniping.
I'm less familiar with that myself. I'm less familiar with that particular practice, so I'm gonna say it's going to be difficult for me. What I suggest though is let me see maybe with Leroy and see how much this is a practice that we have on the map and how we want to address it. But unfortunately, right now I can't answer it, but I'll try to get you the answer because it's a very important very important question. I like to feel that we are supporting our community and mainly our streamers because they are an important part of how people entertain and also learn about the game. So whatever practice that today makes it an exploit, a sort of borderline gray area practice that is impairing this, that is creating toxic behavior, that is preventing our core community people to do properly their job. That is clearly something that if it's not on the radar now, we should be coming the radar as soon as I come back to Montreal, and we'll find ways as much as we can. Again, that practice, I don't know it enough to understand whether it's an exploit on the broadcast system itself or whether it's on finding the game themselves and how we can help prevent it. But I'll dig around when I come back. But I think overall, that point and that element comes back to toxicity and disrespect in games in general and in communities. And it's very much, I believe, that every aspect matters, because if you do let some toxic behavior stay and not fight them, even in a, let's say, slightly more remote aspect of your game and your community, it will snowball somehow. It will contaminate almost some aspect, because I think if you do not do something, you put your players and your community inside a toxic environment somehow, and it triggers more toxic behavior at the end of the day, because if you let it go, if we let people around slap each other in the face, everyone will slap themselves in the face, and that's usually not what you want. Yeah. So ideally, being able to prevent those toxic behaviors wherever they are in your ecosystem is a stance that to have. No, I do believe that this is the multiplayer aspect and the fact that people are pretty much anonymous on internet and in games that triggers that toxic level. I just have to go on Twitter, Facebook, any social media to actually and open up some comments to actually see people that are saying or behaving in ways that we wouldn't in face-to-face in real life. So I think the core, the starting point is when people on a special medium do not have to do not bear any responsibility or any consequence as to how they behave, then people will behave like dicks. Yeah. If there are no laws, no cops and no jails, trust me, I'll be the first to freaking burn some cars. Obviously, I'll bear no consequences in my actions.
I'll write that quote down. I will be the first to burn down cars.
Because it's funny, or it should be funny. I don't know, I've never done it.
Okay, sure.
So I guess there's two takeaways from Alex's answer here. Number one is, if you're a Ubisoft employee, do not park anywhere near Alex ever. But apart from that, I was kind of surprised that maybe Alex took stream sniping very seriously, but wasn't really aware of the issue. And maybe that is an insight into Ubisoft at the moment. Maybe they're not as aware of what an impact stream sniping has right now. Of course, I'm mainly a YouTube content creator rather than a streamer, so for me it's an occasional annoyance rather than a real issue, but I'm sure that some of the large streamers who stream 7-8 hours every day, they must struggle with this more. So it appears that maybe the first thing that needs to happen is that Ubisoft need to be made more aware of this issue so that it at least becomes a point of discussion and can be tackled going forward. The next kind of legal cheating that I mentioned to Alex was smurfing, so basically creating a second account, then losing all the time on purpose to get down to copper, then get into a squad with your friends who are maybe gold, maybe platinum, and by doing so basically lowering the matchmaking ranking of the entire team so that all of you get easier matchmaking and the two people playing with their real accounts, or 3 or 4 or however many there are, they get to basically have easy games, easy MMR points, easy ranking. And when I asked Alex about this, I was actually quite surprised, because his answer was really straightforward and simple, because the two-factor authentication, which has been announced as becoming mandatory soon for anyone who wants to play ranked, will, as a side effect, also apparently make it much more difficult to smurf. Let's see what he has to say.
2FA will absolutely change this. Yeah. Two-factor authentication will make you secure, obviously, your account, link your account in the first step with your email, and a second step later with your cell phone. So people will have, obviously, more and more difficulty in creating new account and in creating a Smurf account. So what that will do is that practice of having a Smurf account to play at lower level and to roll over the noobs, as you can imagine, or the low-level ranked, is going to be less and less easy to do. Or extent that you want to do it, you have to buy a new cell phone. I do imagine that it's going to become a bit more difficult. Again, it's going to take some steps to get there, but with 2FA mandatory in ranked, that's going to change a lot that aspect.
Hey, if this is true, then we've got a really simple solution to this problem coming very soon. But to be fair, Alex did mention that some steps still need to be taken to get there, because I know from personal experience the way that the two-factor authentication works right now is that you have to have a Google Authenticator app installed on your phone, and under that app you can have multiple accounts. So as it stands right now, I don't think this would stop smurfing or even slow it down by much, but if some changes are taken to how the authenticator will work, and you actually do need to buy a new mobile phone if you want to have a Smurf account, that would cut down the problem significantly, almost instantly. I do hope that that will be the case in future. We'll have to wait and see, I guess. And to finally round off the interview, I wanted to talk with Alex a little bit about the casual mode in Rainbow Six Siege. In a game that is so competitive, one of the questions that people are asking themselves nowadays is, what's the point of even having a casual mode? Is it to practice? Because if so, it's not really fit for purpose. Is it to just have some fun? Who knows? Let's see what Alex has to say.
I can tell you about the intentions of the casual mode and the status or the reality of what it is today. And let's start with the reality. The reality is that today the casual playlist is actually harder than the ranking one. Why is this? Because you're pitching together people that have usually less experience in the game, less of the good instincts and reflexes like talking, communicating, etc. Together. And they are discovering the game with not enough help, not enough guidances, and overall this is the worst experience possible. I think today the best advice that you can give to a newcomer is bring your friend and play ranked. In ranked you'll find a population that is actually much more helpful, communicative, tries to play the game in the best way, and the matchmaking has criteria that's going to put you as a copper or bronze at the beginning. So that means that we have an issue with casual, because the intention of the casual ranked playlist is exactly the opposite. Was how do we create a playlist that is actually welcoming for the new people, and that you feel that you don't have the pressure of the ladder, the pressure of the ranking that you may lose at one point. So we're looking extremely closely now on how to fix this, and we should have in the upcoming seasons some news about this.
Okay, so we get, I think, an exciting little teaser there. No confirmed and no firm information, but the casual game mode and the casual playlist are being looked at, and we can expect to hear news about that in the upcoming season. So maybe towards the end of the year, maybe beginning of next year, I'm guessing. And finally, maybe one of the most significant issues that many players have in casual is that on the defender side, you never know which objective you'll be playing. You can't choose it, and as you're choosing your characters, you don't even know which site you'll be assigned at random. So why is this even a thing, and can maybe something be done about that in the short term?
It's a legacy of when we launched the game, actually, where we noticed that in the casual playlist, people were not at all selecting any of the, and they were keeping the default location of the spawn, and we felt like, okay, let's make it random, so at least we are inviting to see the other aspects of the map. But the game has changed a lot since then, so maybe putting back the choice, but I mean, that is a minor aspect. The casual playlist today has so many issues that we need to address, starting with the number of maps, to be honest, and we need to find ways where people get access to a much more digestible number of maps first, because otherwise this is not a sane environment or context to learn.
Okay, so that's quite interesting. At least now we know why this is even a thing. It was because when the game launched, people weren't choosing a site, and that's when they decided to assign it at random. But of course, the game has progressed so far since then that nowadays this practice doesn't really make any sense. But I still take from Alex's answer that they're focused more on other issues in casual right now, rather than specifically this one. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see what they'll be coming up with over the coming seasons to make the casual mode just more fun and more playable. And that's pretty much it. As you probably noticed towards the end of the interview there, the semi-finals were kicking off basically right behind us, so that's where the interview had to end. But I do hope that some of these insights were interesting to you. They definitely were to me. And with that, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next episode.